Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today for our Energy Ready webinar. We're just going to give people a moment or two to join, just maybe a minute and a half for any late strugglers to join the call, and then we'll kick things off. Excellent. I think we might kick things off then. So hello again to all if you just joined us. Thanks for joining this morning for the Flow Power Energy Ready webinar. We're pleased to host this webinar in partnership with the South Australian Wine Industry Association. Flow Power, being a sponsor of Sawyer, have, I guess, heard through Sawyer members that they're in the current energy landscape. There have been some significant changes, particularly in South Australia, and Flow Power as a retailer, but also as an engineering consultancy, has an offering which is Energy Ready, which we're able to provide to our clients and special members to support them during this sort of transition. So joining me today, the panelists, we've got Stephen Cook, Senior Client Solutions Manager. Morning, Stephen. How are you?
Morning, Emmett. How are you?
Yeah, really well, thanks. Stephen Cook, also being a winemaker on the side, is the chair of the Environment Committee for Sawyer and a member himself as well. So very pertinent to the conversation.
Yeah, nice to be wearing a couple of hats this morning.
Yeah, that's right. And also joining me this morning, we've got George, one of our energy engineers. Hi, George.
Hey, Emmett. P7. Morning.
Morning, George.
Yeah, George works alongside our client solution managers like Stephen, but particularly with the focus on engineering and offering services that can support our retail offering to clients. Great. So the topics we'll be covering today, firstly, I'll give a bit of a background to who Flow Power are. Some of you may be familiar with us, some not, some sort of semi-familiar with us. Those that are sort of familiar with us probably would know us as an electricity retailer. However, I guess at the end of today, hopefully you'll understand that outside of our retail offering is an engineering services offering which really complements our retail side of the business, and also is available as well to those that aren't necessarily retail customers. So yeah, Energy Ready obviously is that service I've just referenced. We'll go through what Energy Ready is, what we look for Energy Ready clients, which George will take us through. We've also got a case study, which is for one of our existing customers. And at the end, we've got some questions. So the questions chat option will be open throughout the recording today. So for those listening live, please make sure you pop them in, and we'll allow roughly 10 minutes of time at the end of the call to answer any questions. So roughly 20 minutes of presentation, 10 minutes of questions, and we should finish just around 11 a.m. Eastern time, or for anyone in SA 10:30. Fantastic. So I'll take us through a bit of a background as to who Flow Power are. So as I said, we're a licensed electricity retailer, and our goal is to put customers at the center of the energy market, really empower them to make changes and be conscious of how and when they use energy. Our origination actually in 1994 was more of an engineering consultancy service. So after the deregulation of the electricity market, our CEO, Matthew Vanderlinden, actually found an opportunity to look at customers' invoices and find savings in what was a pretty confusing market for a lot of people in that time. Over the years, we actually began to transition towards a retailer, where in 2008, we were actually established Progressive Green, which is our retail license, and rebranded to Flow Power in 2017. There's been some pretty considerable milestones since then for our retail side of the business, but in 2019, we actually acquired Beast Solutions Consulting and their engineering business, which is, I guess, really a testament to the origins of Flow Power, being a consultant ourselves. And that's really allowed us to develop the Energy Ready program, which we were proud to launch in July 2020, launched only to Flow Power retail customers. However, for special members like Sawyer, and for anyone who's listening live today as well, would be pleased to offer the Energy Ready program outside of a retail contract. Yeah, George, so I suppose since 2020, what sort of customer uptake have we seen of Energy Ready within our customer base?
Yeah, so we've got over 100 customers now on our Energy Ready books, and there's a vast array of types of customers. So agricultural customers, we've got even some motor vehicle trading customers on our books. So yeah, a vast array of customers, and also size. So some customers have just one site or one NIMI, whereas some customers, we've got a water utility with up to 32 NIMIs or 32 sites, and another agriculture customer with up to 35 sites. So a bit of an array, a mix, which is good. So it allows us to delve into the depths of different industries and understand what's driving consumption patterns, etc.
Yeah, that's right. And I suppose we see that the support can be used in a very different ways. Some people may already have some sort of energy strategy and want some validation that what they're doing is working, or others may come to us, I guess, wanting, the full suite of support. How do I know I'm on the right tariff? How do I know that I'm not, overpaying for energy, for example? So, I see in my role a lot of different services being offered, and I'm really proud about that program as well. Fantastic. So, Stephen, I might actually hand over to you to pass us through what Energy Ready actually is.
Yeah, thanks, Emmett. Yeah, great question. What is Energy Ready? So for me, it's a great resource in my role as a client solutions manager that we can call on the expertise of our engineering team, and we're very overweight in like you've mentioned, in the background of Flow Power and the expertise and the depth and the size of our engineering team. So certainly in this instance, what we do for our energy customers is bring in the engineering team and do an external review of the supply and the costs, and we'll go into the details later, but it's really a series of meetings, look at your interval data and try and uncover where the costs are. A lot of businesses, they do what they do. Winemakers make wine, for instance, and not a lot of them have either the expertise or the time to really review the charges that sort of sit in behind the basic energy costs. And as the energy costs has come down, particularly in South Australia, you're finding that these charges now amount to a significant part of the bill, and that might range from anywhere between 20%, depending on your price of electricity and the size of your load, up to 60 or 70% for some low electricity users who just need supply, particularly in certain parts of the year if they're a seasonal industry. So we provide ongoing expertise. It's a little bit like a partnership where we come and do the review, but we take that all away. We just don't, identify the opportunities. Because we're a retailer, we can help implement those opportunities as well and make sure people get the advantage out of it. Some of the key points that we look at are the tariffs. Obviously, in South Australia, there's been a lot of changes, and that's on everyone's mind. A lot of those changes came in from the 1st of July, so they're very new, and some of them are transitional tariffs as well, so they're still taking effect. We look at power factor, we look at solar, and time of use has a big impact, particularly on the new tariffs. So if you can avoid the summer peak rate, then you really can avoid a lot of the cost of the tariffs for that across the whole year, actually.
Yeah, and I suppose it's interesting as well. People are thinking, what's in it for us to provide this kind of service to clients? So I suppose we charge a nominal monthly fee, but most of, I guess, the revenue we earn under this comes from a shared savings arrangement, doesn't it?
Yes, you're right. The project can vary in size. Some can be small and easily implemented. Some of them are a lot more involved. So rather than charging everyone for the cost of spending the time to identify those. Where we find we're spending more time and they're much more involved, it's easier to move to a sharing model where we'll take maybe a 40% cut in the first year and then pass the rest of the savings on to the customer for after that, you know, for forever basically.
Yeah, and George, I guess that really incentivizes your team to get under the hood of everyone's operations, try and find those savings, because anything that we can find for the client, it benefits us as well.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, we hunt, we look, we prioritize. So potentially look at highest consuming sites, potentially look at sites that have been identified with potentially poor performance by the customer, or through some of the data that we can preliminarily analyze. So yeah, we hunt and we look for opportunities. Quick wins are good wins, sometimes early to get some runs on the board, and then some of the bigger engineering type projects that might take a little bit longer, but have a good payback period. So yeah, there's a few strategies we approach depending on the customer and their appetite and their interests, etc. How we approach it. Yeah,
and you've hit on something there, the quick wins, which I think is really interesting, and we'll go through that in a case study later. But often there are really quick wins around tariffs. And particularly in South Australia, as Stephen said, we're in this transitional phase in electricity tariff structures. You know, you've got a ton of solar coming into the grid, and you know, the daytime is now sort of the cheapest time to use electricity, and the evening, when you haven't got as much solar, can be the most expensive. So time of use and tariff changes can really present a lot of opportunity for clients as well.
And I might just make a comment on solar there as well, because a lot of people sort of think with the reduction in electricity or energy costs that there's no payback. But when you've got it behind the meter, you're actually avoiding a lot of these supply charges as well. So we're still finding that there's a good business case for a lot of businesses to be looking at solar and pretty reasonable payback still.
Yeah, that's right. Great, George, being the expert, I might get to you to take us through, I guess, the process for a new client and joining Energy Ready.
Yeah, no worries, Emmett. So the process namely can be broken down into two key parts, the onboarding session and the workshop session. And then there is a kind of ongoing follow-on with the customer, part of the Energy Ready program. So the first process, Energy Ready onboarding, will reach out to you with a welcome email and a customer questionnaire. So that's quite critical to setting up the onboarding session. So that questionnaire, on average, takes 5 minutes to fill out. Majority yes/no questions, and it just gives us a little bit of information around your energy carbon maturity from a business perspective, and also your interests and things that you're not interested in, and then allows us to tailor the onboarding session to what you're interested in, or to not what you're not interested in. So it's quite specific in that sense, and then we'll have the onboarding session, meet our team, meet the Energy Ready team, meet your team, and then circulate back for the workshop. So the workshop is the depths of the detail, the analysis, where we'll really look at across all your sites that you may have. We'll analyze the various opportunities via your interval data, and we'll present and prioritize some of the quick wins or some of the good payback period type projects, and understand your appetite for implementation across that project portfolio. So yeah, that's a bit of a summary of the onboarding and the workshop, and then there's the ongoing discussion and implementation. We even do M&V, so measurement and verification. Once you implement projects, how do you actually know what you said you were going to save, you're actually saving? So yeah, there's that component too. So yeah, that's a quick run through, Emmett, of the process.
Yeah, and I think as well, one of the key things you've hit on there, which isn't necessarily shown on the slide, is the ongoing value. So, you know, we do find probably that most of our opportunities are identified immediately, but the service is provided on an ongoing basis, and if anything, the ongoing value is what clients stick around for, because every year tariffs change, or businesses' operations may change, or you know, there may be changes in their energy contract structure, for example. So these kind of workshops that we're doing aren't necessarily a one-off. It's delivered on a regular basis, just to ensure that the client is across what's available.
Yeah, that's right. So tariffs is a good example of, you implement one tariff 1 year and potentially make some other changes on site, process people, etc. You may have a new tariff to move to the following 12-month period. So it's an ongoing process of assessment and analysing your data and understanding kind of the business goals and where you're heading.
Yeah. And Stephen, I guess you said earlier that, you know, winemakers make wine, and whatever you're doing in your business, you do yourself. So having that external sort of validation just to know, even though there aren't many opportunities, that you actually are on the best tariff is pretty valuable, right?
That's right. Yeah. And I think, you know, it's always lurking in back of a lot of people's minds that, you know, maybe they're not on the best rates. And so I think, you know, it's probably a bit like a health check. You know, I think you should be doing this every couple of years because the situation does change. Your energy patterns change. What we have found is some people are paying a peak demand. Now the business has changed, you know, particularly during COVID, or they might reallocate their assets. So they're paying a peak demand that might be based on a load that they had about 3 or 4 years ago. So it's not relevant. So it's an ongoing cost to them as well.
Yeah.
And maybe there's just one, like the last dot point there is assets for demand response. So that's really looking at your time of use, and you know, most of our customers have some exposure to the wholesale market. That's basically the model that we have. So it's very important for them because they get a reduction in the you know, the energy costs, as well as, you know, some reduction in quite often in their tariff and their supply charges. If you're not under that model and you're under a fixed retail contract, there's still some benefit from being able to shift your load. Like we said, there's a tightening of the tariff rates and when they apply. And if you can avoid those, then certainly there's some savings to be made. So yeah, that one is applicable to people on fixed rate contracts and people with wholesale market exposure.
Yeah, absolutely correct, and probably a really great segue into, I guess, the kinds of initiatives that we are looking for customers. Demand response being one, but George, you know, the most common things we look for may not necessarily be demand response, right?
Yeah, well, first up, the very first thing, I know we've talked to it a little bit, is tariff. So we will do an assessment of your existing tariff, any other potential tariffs within your region, and understand the savings from those changes. It doesn't always uncover a tariff change, but we do find tariffs is one of the things that we do find most commonly. Solar is another one that most of our customer base, potentially probably up to about 80% of our customers and their NIMIs or sites, would have a solar opportunity, whether it's ground mount, roof mount solar, and we go into the depths of the details of solar PV analysis and design for our customer base. So we look at your existing roofs, land availability, shading effects, etc. How does your interval data or your consumption profile match or not match solar? What are the export rates, etc. So they're probably the top two, if I was to pick two. And then the other ones that we do look at, peak demand. So what are you paying for your monthly or annual peak demand? What can you do operationally on sites? What are the opportunities to manage that peak demand and save directly on your invoice? Power factor correction, so the efficiency of electrical circuit, how efficient is it, and do you understand that? So we help our customers with that aspect. And then there's other aspects not related to necessarily related to interval data. So quite a few of our customers have carbon neutrality goals. So we look at energy and carbon strategy and how we can help them understand how to meet those targets in the future. So a bit of strategy work. And then there's also the big piece around demand response. So do you have an existing generator on site? Do you value redundancy? Would you look at installing a generator? Do you have battery storage on site with your solar? Can you load shed assets at critical times of the market when market prices are peaking? So that whole demand response opportunity, there's a lot in that to unpack, and it's depending on kind of customers' ability to shift accordingly to the market signals.
Yeah, I think it's a really important point because it's a commonly spoken thing within our existing retail customer base, responsiveness to market prices, but demand response could be also, as Stephen alluded to, looking at network tariffs. So for those that are on fixed retail contracts, and I don't want to back over the same topic, but you know, there is a lot of opportunity, even if you are on a standard contract, to look at your time of use and potentially shift things away from more expensive times in the network, or if you're on a wholesale model like FlowPower's retail contracts, you can benefit from network charge reduction, but also from energy charge reduction as well.
And one thing that wineries are particularly suitable for shedding load as